Video 20. Had a conversation today about the reality of Kanye, and nothing about this video is apologizing for any problem or any judgment that anyone has on Kanye for any of his actions or his shenanigans. But the time I've spent with him, you know, I consider him a friend. I consider him very misunderstood. Totally understand why everyone has the opinion they do of him, which is wide-ranging, of course. Take the swastika move that he did. I'll just say the thing is, he understands that the swastika is 10,000 years old, that it's long before, you know, this last century and the use that it was applied for, but still, it's kind of a scorched earth symbol because of that. And again, not being sensitive to that brings what it brings. And so everything's a choice, like I talked about in my last video. But I was referencing kind of how I decoded Kanye's rise to fame, more or less, and how it applied to him generally and often being very frustrated with, he would bring people in to do projects and they might be experts, might be an architectural firm, it might be whatever. I mean, obviously Kanye's worked with a lot of world-shaping individuals, you know, whether or he's friends with Elon or James Turrell, the famous architect, or whatever. One of the people that builds a lot of his stages, just a genius guy, works in aerospace, been friends with Kanye for a long time. For example, he knows he just stays out of Kanye's life. When Kanye calls and he's super excited about a project, they go and sit down. He'll design something. Probably he's been the one behind some of the unbelievable stages and experiences that Kanye has brought to audiences. Anyway, with Kanye being almost at a tantrum level of a child, frustrated at times, and again, factoring in, he was molested as a kid. He's got traumas. If you know about trauma, people don't mature past the trauma points in some capacity of their emotional state. And so it's not an excuse. These are just data points. I'm a data guy. I look at things from a data standpoint. I try to stay objective. I want to understand how to make things successful, how to deliver outcomes, and know what the difficulties are. And so within a few weeks of me spending time with Kanye and trying to understand why is he so frustrated, why does he get so angry with people, one of my observations became, look, Ye, you know, I would explain to him what I believe he wants when I would listen to one of his rants, and he would basically go, yeah, you understand what I want. Why doesn't anyone else understand what I want? And I would say, well, I have the ability to kind of look past the emotion or the theatrics or the volume or the choice of language and just literally hone in on what it is you want, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to basically interpret and then help you execute, whether it was business, whether it didn't matter what it was, you know, just advisor all around. At one point he asked me to be CEO of Yeezy, you know, which wasn't what I was there to do. It wasn't my interest. I said, I'll help your current CEO do a better job with my experience with the big brands, you know, with Adidas leadership or Nike founders or leadership or whatever. So no, I did that. But the point is, when I finally understood kind of a decoding factor of why he would get so upset, and I asked him questions about, you know, his journey from the beginning to current. And part of the decoding is this. I'll just share kind of his path of life. He would be upset with someone why he could convey what it is he wanted, and a week later or a month later, it's not really any further along. Why haven't they finished it? Why haven't they done it? I would just go do it. And I finally realized, well, Kanye started out in the industry as a beatmaker, as the term would be. So he made beats. And when you watch the documentary series Genius on, I think, Netflix, it's pretty insightful if you look at it from a context of how hard Kanye worked early on and the things that he was up against because of his cultural upbringing. You know, his mom being a PhD and as a college professor of English, and his dad being a PhD engineer. You know, he's got a lot of intelligence. He's a highly intelligent person. He just has a lot of trauma that makes a lot of that a mess in his mind. But he also has this ability to channel creativity that's kind of unexplainable. That's a whole other conversation. But I realized as a beat maker, you know, he was nobody. He was a teenage kid making beats in his basement. And so he could do that alone. He could literally make the hottest new beat. He didn't take anyone. He had his own equipment. He didn't need a band. He didn't need anything. He could do it all by himself. And when he finally had a break and he got in front of Jay-Z, played his beats, you know, and I saw Kanye do the same thing in the studio when we'd be in the studio, and whether it was, you know, the next guy coming up, whether, you know, even Chance, the rapper, was, you know, still coming up when I was working with Kanye. So watching these young guys come in and him evaluate them the way he was evaluated was insightful for me about what the process is in that music pipeline, in that industry, that genre. And so essentially, you know, when he got his break, Jay-Z brought him in. You know, within however amount of time, he's made this impact in the industry where he could say, I'm one of the best beat makers in the industry. He would say he's the best, but let's just say you're in that top 3, that top 5 among the best, because art is subjective, not objective. And so he achieves that. Jay-Z, who's 5 years older, in that neighborhood, but when you're 20 and 25, that's a huge gap. So Jay-Z becomes one of his idols. Obviously, he's already successful in the music industry, and once Kanye's established himself in those first few years as an amazing beat maker, and he's got the reputation, that's his first achievement, that's his first accomplishment, that's his first ego fulfillment. I'm great at this, what's next? And so then the next thing for him is, I want to be a rapper, and I want to be one of the best rappers of all time, just like I am a beat maker. And he tells this to his friend and idol at the time, Jay-Z. Jay-Z literally laughs in his face. And I'm not saying kindly, I'm saying, like, you're never going to be a great rapper, you know, more or less. And so for somebody like Kanye, he's got a fragile, emotional being, he's sensitive, and that really hit him hard. You know, he took it to heart. And so, but it drove him, and he, like every successful entrepreneur, like everyone who's ever founded a huge company, at some point they had a chip on their shoulder. You know, the Lance Armstrongs, the Bezos, you know, whoever it is. Even Elon was bullied as a kid. They have this deep, deep drive to overcome, to show the world that they are who they are, that they're going to be who they're going to be. And so he gets this from Jay-Z on rapping, and he's like, okay. In his head, he's like, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to show you. So he works on his music. What happens next? He gets in a car accident. He wraps his car around a pole, gets his jaw broken. And living the lifestyle he was living, obviously he had burned through a lot of his cash, you know, that he'd made from being a beat maker. So here he is. He's bought studio time. He's got a broken jaw. His jaw's wired shut. He's like, I'm going to do it anyway. And so he raps on his album. He calls the album Through the Wire. It goes huge. His rapping career is launched, even though he rapped through a wired jaw. Again, you can call these things supernatural blessings, if you will. Not sure which side they come from, but again, it's unexplainable, and it's again a part of an incredible journey when you understand the backstory. So then he rises to becoming one of the top rappers of the day, right? So now he's been a beat maker at the top level of the world. He's a rapper. His next objective, I want to be one of the greatest live acts of all time. Again, people around him, are you kidding me? You know, why would you ever be one of the greatest live acts of all time? Fast forward, he does his shows, he does his performances, he smashes it. He becomes, I think, top 3 live acts of all time, just behind like the Beatles and Michael Jackson. You know, this is at that time, you know, and again, everybody can chase statistics or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The specifics aren't what's important. It's the essence of this story. It's that you achieve it at one time or another. So those are 3 world-leading titles that he achieves. Next, he's like, I love fashion. I want to basically change the fashion industry. So his 4th endeavor, I'm going to be the greatest, you know, fashion designer or influence on fashion that the world's ever seen. The fashion industry laughs at him. Like, who do you think you are? That is ridiculous. Once again, he's completely ridiculed for his vision. And once again, he envisions how to do it. And so what's he do? You know, the big breakthrough opportunity that he created for himself was he rents Madison Square Garden. He builds his clothing line. And I think he invites all of his friends, celebrities from the music industry, actors, athletes, whatever, creates this huge spectacle at MSG. And then I believe he hired 1,000 models. And so he puts on the largest, most eccentric, extravagant fashion show of all time. And if my details are off, it's because the details are not what's key and important to me. It's the overall story, that the principle of what I'm sharing is what matters here. So there he is, disruptor in 4 significant world culture related industries. 5th, he wants to be the sneakerhead. He wants to be the guy who changes the world of sneakers. And again, people laugh at him. He's ridiculed. And so, and actually I think the sneaker story goes before the fashion story, I forget. But long story short, and I remember when I was in Nike Innovation, I remember Tinker was working with Kanye. And so in 2009, approximately, before Kanye ended up going to Adidas, I had heard, you know, about the challenges and the troubles that Nike was facing with Ye, you know, and just not because, you know, I wasn't listening to his music, I wasn't following him, but again, as I've said in other videos, my job has always been to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world. So I was aware of that stuff. Tinker loved working with Kanye in the context of his disruption and creativity. He always talked about how much he loved going to his concert and what a brilliant performer Kanye was. So, I mean, there was a lot of positives, but Kanye was just way too difficult, too much of a personality for Nike's, you know, interests. Nike has the appetite is limited for how big of a personality you're going to be. And so that's another story as well. But long story short, it was a perfect combination for Kanye to be with Adidas, because Kanye is the ultimate disruptor and destabilizer and chaos machine. And then to pair up with a German, which is about precision and engineering and execution and all these things, the fact that Adidas gave him so much leeway and so much room to run for so long, again, that was part of me being the Kanye whisperer and being able to come in from Nike and all my experiences at the top and be able to say to Kanye, which there was always conflict between Kanye and Adidas until I came in, and then basically I could say to Kanye, and he trusted me, that this company's bending over backwards for you. I've never seen anything like it. You should be more appreciative. You should be more easy to work with, you know. Again, another conversation for another time. But the point is, Kanye disrupted 5 major industries. And so in his mind, he's right. In his mind, and he might have 50 ideas a minute, an hour. Like, he would tell people, I don't need your ideas. I got 1,000 ideas a second. I just need you to execute. Again, immature, childish frustration. He's not a great leader. He's not great at inspiring people. He is just an eccentric artist who is not the best communicator, although he writes provocative lyrics that people are always blown away by in many of his songs. So you would think he has an ability to communicate. He is articulating in a medium of communication, but his ability to communicate a vision, his ability to communicate where he's trying to take someone, couldn't be further from Elon. And that's another conversation about a recommendation I had made at one point about working with Elon, and he wasn't willing to. But anyway, longest video yet. My apologies. Hopefully it's an interesting piece of insight and story, and you can borrow from it, learn from it. And if it provokes more questions and more thoughts, send them my way. So have a great day. Appreciate you guys, and God bless. Talk to you soon.